All right. Well, good afternoon. It is July 25th, 2023. I was on one of my uh, websites I like to go to. It's called Legal Insurrection. And it, again, not nearly radical enough for my taste, but the legal insurrection is kind of a tongue in cheek. And actually, it's not a bad word, a rising up against established authority. Huh? That's how this country was founded upon. Anyway, the obtuse Republicans are at it again. One of the worst things that occurred in this country was the abortion debate. Um, Bear in mind, if the federal government had nothing to do with health care, there would have been a medical solution to this problem a long time ago. Roe v. Wade, a liberal court took into consideration the times we were in and the fact that it's like guns. The procedure exists, the implement exists. Therefore, some people are going to figure out ways to do it, and consequences will arise from that. And any activity that is made illegal, that doesn't mean it's not going to occur. So the spirit of Roe v. Wade was in keeping with, look, this is happening, we need to do something. But unfortunately, it should have never been the federal government's purview in pushing any laws around reproductive rights, and I hate that term because you already have them. Once government steps into anything, if you get the perception that they're allocating rights to you, you've already lost your rights. And I'm gonna lay my abortion view out before I read this, what I thought was satire from an article. Let's get it. Republicans want the child tax credit to include unborn babies. They got sucked in again, and I'm going to prove it as we read through this article. But anyway, my stance, and I've got half a tub of abortion information. I'm going to put something together on that because it is a huge issue in this country. It shouldn't be, by the way, like so many others. But I don't know. The only reason I haven't done a really large presentation on that, or wrong word, comprehensive presentation on what I believe has been an exaggerated and, it's just been a tool for one party, and it's been the nemesis of another party. And I think you know who we're talking about. The abortion issue should have never reached, it's just been useful to some people. That's why it is what it is. Created huge bureaucracies. But my stance, real quick, in the first trimester, it's none of anybody's business. It should be between a woman and her doctor. And doctors should have never been placed in a position where reputable ones don't do abortions and those that do aren't as reputable, or they become this separate sect. And that takes a lot of the moral imperatives out of any dynamic. Think Republican and Democrat. Republicans are obtuse, and we're going to find out here their zealotry causes its own set of problems. And the Democrat Party currently in this country represents the Socialist Party, the socialist mindset, and they have, frankly, not a lot of reverence for the life of its citizens, and that's just a fact. Republicans go the other way. With their zealotry, sometimes driven by fundamental Christian views, but also their statists as well. This article is going to kind of show how that works. So here we go. By the way, did I say in the first 12 weeks, I don't think it should be anybody's business. I think it should be between a woman and her doctor. And in the age of the 10-day pee stick, if you can't decide in the first trimester, you're probably not the right person to make the decision anyway, because it is terminating a life form. It is. And the denial of that has allowed an awful lot of rationalization to come. And I think we can agree that there shouldn't be a federally funded abortion industry in this nation. Can we just agree on that? And that it shouldn't be a default birth control for large swaths of our population, and it is. Again, I want there to be a safe, legal, private avenue for women to make that decision in the first trimester. Period. There's some science in that too. We won't get into that today. But here we go. The Republicans, I thought this was satire. I really did. The Republicans want the child tax credit to include unborn babies. The parents have the ability to claim the tax credit for the pregnancy once the mother gives birth to the child. Representative Ashley Hinson, Republican Iowa, is leading a package of bills. That means financing a bureaucracy, and we're going to talk more about that, in the House called Providing for Life Act. Not government's job. Government's job is to protect our sovereign nation and to protect us against intruders and aggression from without. It's not their job to provide for life. An ambitious attempt at overhauling the federal government's family care system. And that family care system involves tens of thousands of bureaucracies already. And it doesn't work. We've built every ghetto in this country has been built and financed by the government's family care system. Hinson told Fox News, because they're probably the only ones that would hear it early on. I'm sure it'll be ridiculed on the other networks. Charts the policy course for a culture of life in America. You know who else said this? In the 1850s, the Prussians, who were integral, John Dewey and his lot, who were integral in forming compulsory education at the behest of government. They wanted to create a social fabric. They wanted to condition us to build a society that is awful. I know it's awful in practice, and it's awful in intent. It doesn't take individuals. It's collectivism is what it is. That's a whole nother discussion if you don't know that term. So here it is. By expanding the child tax credit to include the unborn and providing additional support to working families, that could be a Democrat talking point, empowering women to care for their babies regardless of socioeconomic status, there's another Democrat talking point, or zip code. Now, Republicans are cool on the zip code discussion. Why should your kid be stuck in a school just because of their zip code? They don't want it, and the Democrats don't want any school choice. Funny how that is. In improving access, here we go, to community resources, that's bureaucracies, we can make a meaningful difference for those in need. Again, I'm sorry, but that's not the federal government's job. They're not supposed to be fulfilling our needs. And these are just typical statist talking points, no different in context than the crap the Democrats throw at us all the time. And the reason I'm harder on Democrats is because they're the avowed supporters of socialism. The Republicans claim not to be. These provisions and others championed by the pro-life community will ensure we protect the most vulnerable and make critical investments, that's your money, or fiat money, which always comes back to us in the form of inflation, in the long-term well-being of our families. Wow. The parents have the ability to claim the tax credit for pregnancy once the mother gives birth to the child. They would also gain access to regular child tax credit in the current year. A case can be made that anything that allows us to keep more tax money in our pockets is a good thing. But again, this is them getting sucked into an argument that is still, we're missing the point with government's involvement with the abortion issue. We need a philosophical anchorage to what exactly the process, again, back to it exists, people are going to do it, it needs to be safe, but we also need reasonable discourse. It shouldn't be an industry, it shouldn't be a default birth control process, and taxpayers shouldn't have to ever fund it, whether they believe it's okay or not. Period. That gets the argument out of it. If the government isn't forcing me, I did the math once. I think it's only 47 cents to me, the Planned Parenthood. Although there's lots of other Department of Health and Human Services that feed that cow in different ways. Huge, huge discussion. But anyways, I do like this. I mean, if you're going to have a forced bureaucracy upon us and adding to the tax burden or tax system. Because remember, one person's credit is someone else's burden in this time of tax theft and inflationary theft. The parents have to be employed. Boy, I bet that steams the Democrats, huh? Democrats did not allow the $2,000 tax credit for each dependent during COVID to become permanent. That's a little out of, but I love this. Other measures in the package include an option allowing parents to draw from their Social Security to finance up to 3 months of paid parental leave. Again, another leftist talking point. And enhancing certain benefits for new mothers. It also includes incentives for states. That's federal monies to the states. Think about the, if you're in California, think about your carpool lanes that nobody else can drive in unless they have the right kind of car or someone riding with them. That's to get federal money. So that's what's going on here. It's just another wealth redistribution scheme, whether they want to call it something else or not. It also it includes incentives for states to set guidelines on fathers paying for a part of a woman's pregnancy costs, and would force, there's that nasty word again, cooperation with any child support requirements to receive SNAP food benefits. Welfare. There's nothing conservative about this. In addition to more economic benefits for young families, well, let me tell you something. Governments cannot and do not provide economic benefits. Sorry, they don't lift anybody out of anything. Every once in a while, some folks might use them as a stepping stone, but that is not the case very often. Hinson's legislation seeks to provide expecting parents with support programs on college campuses and at pregnancy resource centers, and aims to establish a federal clearinghouse of resources. So again, they're going to be using federal money to fight the abortion issue for their pro-life agenda, and bolster support for social service programs at places of worship. For parents in low-income and other vulnerable communities, there's another leftist talking point. It funds local demonstration programs providing volunteer, mentoring, and peer support services. If this is a way to stop the murder of unborn human beings, so be it. Anything to stop abortion. That is a horrible statement for any leader to make. Anything. So, and again, conservatism is supposed to mean conservative use of government, limited government spending, limited government intrusion into our lives. None of that exists here. And just at the fundamental, it's zealotry. And that is the reason the Republicans should have swept in 2022, given the midterms that we didn't sweep. I'm a libertarian, but conservatives live a little closer to the world that I want to live in. They don't hate America. And with the exception of this, they really don't seem to be, they're not quite, and with the internet, they're less intrusive into my life as an individual. But again, this is zealotry. This is what it looks like. And it's a direct response to the Roe v. Wade decision, and it's a direct response to, it's a pro-life, and there's nothing wrong with being pro-life at an intellectual and a philosophical level. But again, in a civilized society, there's a medical procedure that exists that women can use to make a decision should something go awry with them and they get pregnant when they don't want to be. And in my world, in the libertarian world, that again should be between a woman and her doctor. And ideally make that decision in the first trimester, because really if you can't, you're probably not qualified to make the decision, and acknowledge that you are terminating, that the procedure terminates a human life. And from a philosophical standpoint, I think that grown-up civilized human beings should have the right to make that decision, but I'd like them to, but to rationalize that that's not what's going on isn't a healthy human thing either. And that's been part of making it, well, we shouldn't be doing 800,000 or 900,000 abortions a year. Again, that's going to be another topic. I submit to you that if the federal government wasn't involved in any of this, our political landscape would look a lot different. It's a horrible political football. This will be used against Republicans, by the way, because Democrats are exceptional at that. Their organizing skills far exceed. Well, most conservatives and libertarians are busy going to work and shit. Oh, darn it. I almost got through this whole thing with no profanity. Anyway, I actually thought that this was a bit of a joke when I first started reading it. But indeed, it's a real deal. And I just think it's another example of one party getting sucked into this. This particular issue needs to be done. It needs to be addressed in a more thoughtful fashion rather than being a political football. I don't know that that's ever going to occur. But this is another example of the Republicans' zealotry playing into the hands of the well-organized Progressive Socialist Democrat Party in America. And you watch, this will get used against them. It'll be an if this, then why not that? Because this is calling for more bureaucracy, more spending, more government control over our lives. And I think the Republicans need to do a lot better job with leaving this issue, finding a solution to this issue that involves reason and philosophical anchorage to common sense. And they also need to find a way to communicate the fact that they are indeed not the party of bigotry. Conservatives typically are nicer, in my experience, to everybody. Maybe they have a higher, I know us libertarians and conservatives, we have a higher expectation of you because we love people so much that we want better for them. But that doesn't mean we should be wanting more control over anybody's lives. And the Democrat Party certainly owns that, this issue notwithstanding. Anyway, have a great day. Don't get any on you. I hope that was cogent, spur of the moment as always. And I'll catch you later. Have a good day.